and I co-advise the Seagrass and Sea Turtle research class.
Hi, I'm Lainey Ash. I am the research technician for the Sea Turtle Research and Conservation Program, started in 2012 by Annabelle Brooks, focusing on the ecology of juvenile green sea turtles. We work in collaboration with the University of Florida and are funded by the Earthwatch Institute. This year, we helped create the Bahamas Sea Turtle Network in partnership with the Department of Marine Resources, the Bahamas National Trust, and the University of Florida, focusing on the poaching of sea turtles throughout the country. Our outreach communicates the importance of sea turtles globally and their protection here in the Bahamas. Without further ado, the Fall 2016 Sea Turtle Research class.
I'm Davis Richmond.
I'm Caroline Cachadorian.
I'm Lucas Ponzoa. I'm Chris Aiken.
And I'm Simi Auber.
And our research is looking at the relationship between the characteristics of seagrass beds and the relative abundance of the green sea turtle, Chelonia mitis, in South Eleuthera, the Bahamas. So each year, about 5 billion tons of carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere due to the burning of fossil fuels. And of that, 40% diffuses across air-water surfaces and turns into dissolved carbon dioxide. And even though seagrass only covers about 0.1 to 0.2% of the ocean floor, it's still responsible for filtering out 12% of these dissolved gases. In fact, in nutrient recycling in general, seagrass is estimated to be worth about $1.9 trillion. So that, paired with the fact that it has the ability to both create and maintain an entire ecosystem, really shows its importance as an ecosystem engineer. Not to mention the fact that many marine species heavily rely on seagrass beds as a food source, habitat, and nursing ground, and are the three types of species of seagrass that we focus on were manatee grass, shoalgrass, and turtle grass. One species in particular that heavily relies on seagrass is the green sea turtle, which is the most common species of sea turtle in the Bahamas because they often come here to use the surrounding seagrass beds as a foraging ground. Our research focuses on this species because the green sea turtle is the only species of sea turtle that we know of that relies solely on seagrass as a food source during its juvenile and adult years. These sea turtles are also known as keystone species because of the effect that they have on their ecosystem. One example of this is the way that their grazing patterns affect the characteristics of seagrass beds. Their specific grazing patterns allow seagrass to maintain a healthy height so it doesn't overshadow itself, as well as allows the seagrass blades to grow back thicker and with more nutrients due to increased carbon and nitrogen levels.
Eleuthera can be used as an experimental model due to the low human impact in and around the island. Human impact is the main reason that seagrass beds are dying off, and they are doing so at a rate of about 7% each year. Human impact has two types. The first being direct human impact includes dredging, anchoring, and fishing. As shown on the slide, we can see the direct impacts that humans are having on these seagrass beds. Indirect human impact includes rising sea levels, climate change, and nutrient runoff, which leads to a process called eutrophication. Nutrient runoff creates rapid growth of seagrass, which will then overshadow itself and eventually kill itself. Further, many organisms that reside in and live off of the seagrass, such as sea turtles, are being displaced, which is creating a very large issue in our ecosystems. There are two objectives for this research project, the first being to investigate the biomass and productivity of seagrass, and the second to determine the relative abundance of green sea turtles in South Eleuthera. With this, we can investigate the mutualistic relationship between the two species, as the Bahamas is a critical foraging ground for these green sea turtles. Further, with this research, we can progress conservation efforts here in the Bahamas for these two species. As of 2009, green sea turtles and all sea turtles have been protected here, and it is illegal to hunt, fish, or hold any turtle in captivity. However, seagrass is not being protected here in the Bahamas, and with our research, we really hope to change this and conserve this very important species.
So here are 7 of our study sites around Eleuthera. On the Atlantic side, we have Winding Bay, Half Sound, And then on the Exuma Sound side, we have Plum Creek, Deep Creek, and Rawlings Creek. And then we have another site, 2 sites on the Bahama Bank side, Kemps Creek and Poison Creek. So this is a layout of what we do in each and every creek. So we go into these creeks and we look at how the dynamics of seagrass beds affect the abundance of sea turtles. So we lay 6 25-meter transect lines, each of them perpendicular to the shore. They are each 50 meters apart with 6 quadrats on each transect line, so a total of 30 quadrats in each creek. So in these quadrats, we look at things like density, substrate, canopy height, and algae to grass ratio. And then we also take a core sample, which Simi's doing at the top left. And then we can bring that to the lab and we dry that to a constant weight, which with that constant weight, we can then calculate the biomass in each of these creeks and compare that to an abundance survey, which is a sample size survey that's 30 minutes long, where we stand on the bow of these boats and we count the number of sea turtles we see in each creek. And we also mark them with a GPS so that we aren't marking the same turtle over and over again.
So as shown here, this is a bubble plot of the seagrass biomass in each of these study sites that we visit. So as shown here, Winding Bay and Half Sound are our 2 Atlantic study sites, and you can see that the bubbles are much bigger than the other 5 down below, and the bigger the bubble, the higher, or the higher biomass, seagrass biomass there is. So this is showing that the Atlantic side study sites that we visit do have a higher seagrass biomass in comparison to our Bahama Banks and Exuma side sites. So this is another bubble map, or bubble plot, showing us the relative abundance of sea turtles. So like I was saying before, the bigger the bubble, that means there are more sea turtles there. So Winding Bay and Half Sound, both of our Atlantic sites, they do have more sea turtles that we found there in comparison to our Bahama Banks and Exuma side sites. So this is the seagrass biomass. You can see here that the Atlantic side does have a significant difference in comparison to the Exuma site, which is saying that the Atlantic side does have a higher seagrass biomass. This is the relative abundance of sea turtles. So like I was saying in the bubble plot, the Atlantic side does have a significantly higher amount of sea turtles found in comparison to the Exuma side sites and the Bahama Bank sides. And you can see on the y-axis there, it's showing the average of sea turtles that we found in these study sites. So here, this is showing the seagrass to algae ratio. You can see here on the far left, our Atlantic sites do have a much higher seagrass average in a very low algae level ratio in comparison to our Exuma side sites and our Bahama Bank sides, which are significantly dominated by algae.
We have found that both our Atlantic sites, Winding Bay and Half Sound, both have the healthiest seagrass beds out of all of our sites and have the highest abundance of sea turtles. And we believe that this is true because they are our largest sites. They have typically cooler temperatures all year round. They're less influenced by tides because of their deeper depths, and they receive more nutrients from the ocean. Currently, there are homes along the shore of Winding Bay, which is why we want to conserve our efforts to our Atlantic sites in order to reduce coastal development and habitat destruction. In conclusion, we have found that there is a mutualistic relationship between seagrass and sea turtles. We want to focus our conservation on our Atlantic sides because of the reasons said before. We want to also study more sites and cover a greater area in each of the creeks that we study. We'd like to thank CEI, Island School, our research advisors, our interns, the Boathouse staff, and Ashante Russell. Are there any questions? The question is the algae killing off the seagrass? And the algae is in direct competition with the seagrass, so they compete for space and therefore light. So yes, they are in direct competition.
I must have missed it, but I didn't understand how you collected the algae, or how you monitored it.
The question is, how do we collect the algae?
So we aren't actually trying to collect the algae. We are focusing on seagrass, but we do, we do look at the ratio of the two, algae and algae ratio in each creek. Yeah. Mom. Wait, can you just repeat that one more time? Sorry. Well, they do, but all right, so the question is, do the sea turtles eat algae and seagrass?
No, turtles, through their juvenile years, they eat zooplankton, and then they also, when they mature, they eat seagrass. They don't eat algae.